So that shows that Josephus, the Gospels and the Book of Acts were written after Josephus. We can prove that just a bit. And you say, well, what do you mean? Well, we'll talk about that. That has to do with what the historical Jesus is all about. Anything. So if you don't know who Flavius Josephus is, then you're already behind the eight ball. You can't make a fair evaluation of this period. If you haven't read Josephus, how can you evaluate the period and see if what you think is true of this period measures up to what someone else is writing about this period? So right from the get-go, historical situation means looking at all the sources, weighing them, and then coming up with it's nothing to do with faith, it's nothing to do with church, it's nothing to do with synagogue, it's nothing to do with any other religious institution. It's what historians and scientists and academics do. You look at all the sources, throw them up in the air, use some common sense, and bingo, you should come out with some sort of view of things. That's what we're trying to do in this class. Very hard to do with one term, but do our best. So, I don't say you have to have Josephus. And if you don't want to read him, don't. But if I was a student of history, and I wanted a library, Josephus would be in it, almost number one. And he's written 2 books in case Flavius, I don't tell you about Flavius. What's Flavius mean? Flavius is the name of the new imperial family that came into power because of the war in Palestine. Because of the war of the Romans against the Jews, which has a lot to do with the Jesus issue. Because the destruction of the temple is in the gospel picture of Jesus as something he predicts. And something that theology has tried to blame on the Jews because of the death of Christ. And so on and so forth. They lost their country, they lost their temple. This is in all early Christian theology. Start with Eusebius, who was Constantine, the person who brought Christianity finally over in the controlling force in the Roman Empire. He was Constantine's bishop. And he came from Palestine. He came from what's today Caesarea. He wrote in the 300s. And you just have to open his book, and he's the fountain of anti-Semitism. I don't have to go to Mel Gibson or anything on PCA. I just have to read Eusebius, and it's kind of frightening. He revels in the fact that the Jews are eating their children in the siege under the Romans. He loves it. And there's supposed to be brotherly love and loving your enemy and charity and so on in the religion that he represents, but there's no charity in that individual. Just incredible vicious hatred. Anyway, you're not reading Eusebius, thank God, in this class, but Eusebius does cull a lot of these sources. He gives you all the good testimonies from Josephus. He knows all of these works in 300 and so on. But the Flavians take over the Roman Empire after the war in Palestine. Because their representative, Vespasian, is the Roman general in Palestine who's fighting the Jewish war. And his people capture Josephus. At which point Josephus applies the messianic prophecy to Vespasian, that a world ruler would come out of Palestine to rule the world. The Jews have this wrong, Vespasian. You're the world ruler that's going to come out of Palestine to rule the world. This is all in Josephus' works. We know this. Of course, Christianity says Jesus is the world ruler that's going to come out of Palestine to rule. It's called the world ruler prophecy. It's in Jewish scripture in 2 places, in Isaiah and Numbers. I'll tell you about it as we proceed. So, in Josephus writes the Jewish war. I'm going to hurry. I don't think we're going to take so long. But who wrote a thing about a war prior to Josephus in Roman history? Hey, you guys need a lot of so I can help you there. Maybe I can hinder you elsewhere, but I can help you. I can get you up to over where George Bush was when he started the Iraq War, okay? I can get you higher than that. And he went to Yale and Harvard, so, he missed a few classes.
Was it given?
He was drinking a bit.
The rise and fall of Rome?
Oh yeah, no, Gibbon.
Just guessing.
Yeah, but the Jewish, who wrote before Josephus about war? Caesar. The Gallic Wars. He wrote a book about his own conquests of Gaul to sort of aggrandize himself to become future dictator of Rome. He wrote another book called The Civil Wars. He wrote 2 books about his wars. So Josephus just did a 3rd book, The Jewish War, meaning the war of the Roman emperors against the Jews, not the war of the Jews against the Romans. Their wars were named by the people they fought. So he glorified Vespasian and his family the way Caesar glorified himself, except Caesar was a better writer. So, in exchange for all this that he did for this family, Josephus was adopted into this family. And the name of this family were the Flavians, who were the previous Roman imperial family. Caesar, we call them the Julio after Julius Caesar, Claudians after a group that sort of grafted themselves onto him. So they're all the emperors from Caesar to Nero, the Julio Claudians. And with the assassination of Nero, or the suicide of Nero, it's not clear which, generals vie for control, and finally Vespasian from Palestine gets control and his family rules. How many have seen in Rome the Arch of Titus? That's the triumphal arch built by Vespasian's son, Titus, who he left in command to take Jerusalem with people like Josephus' help. Josephus was an advisor on his staff. Josephus had been a Jewish priest. Anyway, this is why you need a book like that. And not for this class, but for your own. Now, James, Brother of Jesus, my book, everything I've ever taught in these classes, it's a good book to have. It's out in Penguin paperback. You can get it cheap in Amazon. Make a lot of money, frankly, from what you pay in Amazon, $8 or $9 or something, I don't know, but et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I recommend, if you want to know where I'm coming from, no, you don't have to have it for this class, it's up to you, but it's worth having, I think. I'll even sign it for you. And it's a good book. The Incredible Shrinking Man, or Who Wrote the New Testament, Robert Price, are 2 contemporary views of the problem of where we're at in the New Testament studies and so on. You can read either one or the other, or both, or neither, depending on how much time you have and so on. I'm not going to give specific assignments out of them. I just want you to have an alternative view to me. So there's an alternative view, either one or both, to me. And depending on what your budget is and how many books you like to have on this subject, they're both really good books.